Hey there, how's it going?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. So, let's dive into the interview. Could you start by telling me a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Vinayak Iyer. I'm a recent computer science graduate from NIT Surat, and I have 6 months of software engineering experience. I have worked at multiple companies like Mahindra Group and Sears Inc. And I'm a full stack developer. I mainly worked with JavaScript frameworks like React, Next.js, and Node.js. And I've also worked with a variety of SQL and NoSQL databases.
Nice to meet you, Vinay. It sounds like you have some solid experience under your belt. Could you describe the kind of experience you have that's most relevant to this role?
Yeah, sure. So during my time with Mahindra Group, I developed data analytics applications using React and as well as Fast API, which is a Python backend framework for data analytics. So we use various libraries like Pandas, NumPy, Matplotlib that help with data exploration and data visualization. And apart from this, during my time at Sears, I helped in developing a multi-tenant role-based access document workflow platform for banks. So we had a role-based access control feature. We also had a dynamic hierarchy for document workflows, for users to basically upload, manage, and view their documents and share documents in a secure way, as these were banking documents. And apart from this, I also helped in implementing real-time notifications using Google PubSub and SendGrid as the email service.
That sounds impressive, Vinay. It looks like you have a good mix of both front end and back end experience, especially with data handling and security in mind. Do you have experience in the financial industry?
Uh, I don't have experience in the financial industry, but so Mahindra was an automotive company, and I've also worked with Sears, which is basically a cloud consulting company.
Got it. Thanks for the clarification. Could you share your current compensation package?
Yeah, so currently I'm making 12 lakhs per annum.
Thanks for sharing that. What are your salary expectations for this role?
We could discuss that further, but I would expect at least equivalent or a little bit higher than my current compensation package. So maybe 12 to 15 lakhs per annum.
That makes sense. It's good to have a range in mind. Now, let's move on to some skill assessment. Can you tell me about your experience with Node.js? What kind of projects have you used it in?
Yeah, so I've used Node for building scalable backend frameworks and creating RESTful APIs. So Node and a combination of Express, and I've connected these to both SQL as well as NoSQL databases, and these are useful for creating servers basically. So that's how I've used Node in my applications.
That sounds solid. Using Node with Express for RESTful APIs is a great approach. Can you give me an example of a challenge you faced while developing with Node.js and how you resolved it?
Yeah, sure. So one challenging problem I faced while working with Node was dealing with callback hell in a project that required multiple asynchronous operations, such as reading files, querying a database, and performing HTTP requests. So in this case, my code became deeply nested, and it became a bit difficult to maintain, making debugging almost impossible. And basically, to overcome this, I refactored the code base by introducing promises and later adopted async await syntax. Excuse me. This made it easier to read, maintain, and debug. Additionally, I modularized the code by splitting asynchronous logic into smaller reusable functions. And yeah, so that was one common challenge that I faced with Node.js.
That's a great approach to tackling callback hell. Using promises and async await really makes the code cleaner and more maintainable. Nice job on modularizing too. Now, let's move on to React. Can you tell me about a specific project where you used React and what your role was in that project?
Yeah, sure. So in the multi-tenant role-based access document management platform, I use React for creating the dashboards and basically the different views for file management. So I created various React components and modular components like creating the file directory structure, creating the modals for sharing documents as well as viewing documents. So I also integrated React PDF Viewer for viewing the PDFs and exporting these as CSVs. And yeah, so I've used React for a bunch of front-end applications. I have solid experience with React.
That sounds like a well-structured project. Creating modular components and integrating features like PDF viewers and CSV exports really shows your capability with React. Let's shift gears a bit to the software development lifecycle, SDLC. Can you explain the SDLC model you followed in your projects and why you chose that approach?
Yeah, sure. So generally, we followed a prototyping model where we first came up with an initial rough draft, and with the core. Basically, we created a minimum viable product with the core features, and so that we can release it to the user base incrementally. So first, we release version one, which has the core features. Then we take user feedback, we do some user acceptance testing, and then we can work on version two. So we developed the project in phases like this using the prototyping approach. And this really helped with rapid releases and sped up development as well. And we also got a lot of valuable feedback from the customers, which we wouldn't have been able to get at that point in time if we used a slower model like, say, waterfall.
That's a smart strategy. Using the prototyping model allows for flexibility and quick iterations based on user feedback. It's great to hear how you prioritized user experience throughout the development. Next, let's talk about version control systems. Can you describe how you've used Git in your projects?
Yeah, sure. So I use Git in basically every project because Git helps us collaborate with other developers as it's a version control system. So this basically means that you can commit your changes, you can revert your changes if they don't make sense or if they introduce some errors. You can also create new branches, work on different branches at the same time for multiple feature development. So generally, the kind of Git branching pattern that I follow is you have the development or main branch, which contains the stable working code, and then you have the developers working on their individual feature branches, in which they develop a standalone feature that later gets merged into the integration branch. And once we have tested it, using unit tests and integration tests, then we can merge the final code into the development or the main branch.
That's a great approach. Using branches effectively helps keep the main code base stable while allowing you to work on new features or fixes. Testing before merging is definitely a best practice. Let's move on to database management. Can you describe your experience with SQL and NoSQL databases? How do you decide which to use for a particular project?
Yeah, sure. So, when you choose NoSQL over SQL when you need a lot of horizontal scalability to handle massive data volumes and high velocity inputs. So, streaming data like from IoT sensors or social media or real time analytics. And also, if you need a flexible schema that evolves quickly, such as storing JSON documents, then you would use MongoDB. And if the workload is mostly read and write rather than complex queries or joins, or your data does not have any kind of complex relationships, then you would use NoSQL. And the main advantage is you can also work with unstructured or semi-structured data, so your data doesn't have to be structured in any format. So yeah, that's when I would use NoSQL. And you'd use SQL if you have a lot of relational data, if asset compliance is very important for your data. You have transactions. So yeah, that's when you would use SQL, and you have a lot of relationships between different tables.
That's a clear and thorough explanation. You've highlighted the key differences and when to use each type of database effectively. It's important to choose the right tool based on the project's needs. Finally, let's talk about cloud computing. Can you share your experience with any cloud platforms like AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud? What kind of services did you utilize?
Yeah, sure. So basically, at my time in Cirrus, I utilize Google Cloud since Cirrus is a premier Google Cloud partner. So I basically used various features like virtual machines for deploying applications. I use the artifact registry for storing Docker images, for automating continuous integration and continuous deployment, CI/CD. So I used various GCP services like AI services using Vertex AI. So the various AI APIs like text to speech, Google speech to text, and Google Translate services. All these APIs. And apart from that, I also used Cloud SQL for deploying the SQL database. And yeah, so that's how I use GCP. As for AWS, I use S3 bucket for object storage. I've used the AWS virtual machines, for deploying applications. And yeah, same with Azure. Most of the AI models are hosted on Azure Foundry, so I've used Azure for deploying AI models. Yeah, so I have a decent amount of experience with all three cloud platforms.
That's awesome. It sounds like you have a well-rounded experience with major cloud platforms and their services, especially for deployment and AI features. Utilizing tools like Vertex AI and cloud storage shows you're keeping up with industry trends. Thanks for sharing all this information. Vinay, I've enjoyed our conversation. Have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you for the interview.